Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey.
We've seen the teaser trailers for Avengers Doomsday, kids. We've talked about them here on the show. We've talked about them off mic. Everybody clicked on them. They'll click on the ones to come, I'm sure. No one can wait to see Downey as Doom. This movie is going to be a monster film. I think we all know that. I think we all agree with that. One of the trailers, one of the teasers we're calling them, is a very touching moment. And it's from the X-Men part of the universe. Of course, it's now coming in. We know it's here. We know at some point they're likely going to recast the entire team. And at one point, maybe at some point soon, we may see a brand new Professor X and Magneto. But in this particular teaser, we see Ian McKellen and Sir Patrick Stewart, of course. Sir Ian McKellen is also, I believe, a very touching moment where it looks like they have maybe mended fences. A lot of stuff's blowing up. Sentinels are attacking, and Cyclops is going nuts. It's not looking good for these guys, kids. We may have just gotten a glimpse of that part of the multiverse coming to an end. So maybe that would be how the MCU cycles these characters back, or cycles these characters into the MCU, I should say, but puts a new, fresh coat of paint on it. New actors, the whole nine. But let's don't forget that this happened before with X-Men First Class. And that's what we're talking about here today. No, it's not quite the same. I get it. X-Men First Class is not an MCU property. But, buddy, after watching the film for this show today, I am ready to tackle this trilogy. And I know what you're thinking, but Tom, that third film, well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, because oy vey, all right? The number 3 in the franchise, I'm not going to get into it. I won't get into it again. We do a lot of number 3s here, as you guys know. But I'm very happy today to review this film. Can't believe we've never done it. Can't wait to get to it. Let's do this, kids. X-Men First Class is a 2011 superhero film directed by Matthew Vaughn on a story by Sheldon Turner and Bryan Singer, serving as a prequel to the original X-Men trilogy and a soft reboot of the franchise. Released on June 3rd, 2011, it was produced by 20th Century Fox in association with Marvel Entertainment. Set against the backdrop of the Cold War and the Cuban Missile Crisis, this film explores the origins of the X-Men, focusing on the friendship and eventual ideological divide between, of course, Professor X and Magneto. By blending real-world history with comic book mythology, First Class redefined the franchise with a younger cast and a more character-driven approach. The film was produced on a budget of approximately $140 to $160 million, couch money, kids, and grossed around $352 million worldwide, helping to successfully relaunch the X-Men series for a new era. And that is your lowdown on X-Men First Class. So, Phil, lots to get to here today. I have not seen this movie in a very long time. I thoroughly enjoyed this rewatch, but I can't wait to hear what you think. What's your thoughts coming into this one?
Yeah, I like First Class. There's some things about it that didn't age well. There's some parts about it, when you look back at it, it's kind of like, oh, it feels like they had the bare bones of a Magneto movie. And they were like, oh, let's just put it all here. We're already doing this anyway, so let's just put it here. Because they were making those origin movies at one point. We got the Wolverine Origins movie, which was not good.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
And supposedly they were going to make a Magneto Origins film as well. So it feels like they took like the beats that they had for that movie and just put them here, because a lot of the Magneto stuff in this movie is incredible. And some of the rest of it isn't as fully fleshed out.
Not as fully fleshed out, but the stuff we got is incredible. You're right. Michael Fassbender as Magneto, kids, the young version of Magneto. And of course, the great James McAvoy as Professor X. You and I have talked about the combination of these two guys before. What are your thoughts on their chemistry? I don't know if I'm not going to make you say the same as McKellen and Stewart. It's a different cast,
Hmm.
but like you feel like they have like a similar sort of on-screen chemistry between the two of these guys.
I think they really did the heavy lifting in this movie.
Hmm.
I think without McAvoy and Fassbender and like the great story stuff they did with Magneto in this movie, um, this might have been a tough watch.
Interesting, man. It's so weird because we did Spider-Man 3 and I came into it going, yeah, this movie's as bad as I remember. And you're like, wasn't that bad this time? It seems like we flipped on this one, man.
No, don't get me wrong. I do enjoy First Class. I just
Sure.
think that there are other things here that aren't nearly as compelling as Magneto. Magneto really steals the show in this movie,
He does.
and a lot of his backstory and everything is so well written, and everything by the end with him is executed so well.
Mhm.
But in comparison, uh, like the Mystique stuff is not nearly as good.
I agree with that. I agree with that for sure. Yeah, I wasn't as compelled as I maybe thought I was going to be. And look, to be honest, maybe it's better in part two. I cannot remember right
Yeah.
now. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, see the issue with these kind of movies is always when you cast somebody the level of stardom as Jennifer Lawrence, you got to give her a lot of screen time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I feel like that's what happened with this movie and the second movie, and Apocalypse for that matter, where it felt like they had to give Mystique a lot to do to justify bringing in Jennifer Lawrence, and she's a great actress.
Sure.
And I think when given interesting things to do as Mystique, she's good in the role. There's a lot of stuff that they did with her backstory to adapt it to this that wasn't very good, though.
Hmm. I mean, look, when you make Magneto's story so compelling and Fassbender's so great, like not to skip to the end, but when you kind of understand when she starts repeating what he says, like, anything to be ashamed of. This is what you are. You're beautiful to
Yeah.
me. What she tells Hank. I'm like, yeah, I'm starting not to really side with Charles now. I kind of feel like, yeah, they're starting to make a lot of sense here, man. Like maybe that's just a credit to how Fassbender played the part and how it was written, perhaps, and to her as well.
Yeah, I think by the end, lines are definitely blurred, and
Hmm.
because you start the movie with Magneto, and he feels more and more justified as this thing goes on. Um, yeah, I totally can see by the end why she sided with him.
Hmm.
But yeah, the stuff like early in the movie where we get uh Kid Raven and she's naked as a kid, and they're still doing the makeup stuff that they did from the last X-Men franchise. It's just kind of bizarre.
Mm. You know, I can't sit here and say that it hit me that way, but man, when you say it that way, yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, that the scene where uh Xavier comes into the kitchen and she's disguising herself as his mother, and
Yeah.
then she transforms back into her real self, and it's like, wait, this is a little girl that is like standing naked in his kitchen.
Yeah, that's I mean, again, that's but you know, I guess it would have been very easy for her to have like a shirt on or something, but at the same time, like little boys have shame,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, I'll put it this way: little boys have less shame than girls do. Little boys will walk around the house with their shirt off, and a girl would never do that.
Yeah.
So now that you mention it, it is kind of odd that she didn't at least just have a T-shirt on, if nothing else.
Yeah. Um
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know how I felt about them deciding to continue to go with the makeup and stuff that they did with Rebecca Remain
Mm-hmm.
in the earlier X-Men trilogy here, but then also they're treating this movie like a loose prequel. So they
Yeah.
kind of had to, but yeah, I think that's why the backstory with Mystique also is just kind of it's kind of strange because then when you think about like the when you think about the original trilogy and how her and Charles have this extended backstory, but then she doesn't interact with Xavier that much
Mm-hmm.
in that trilogy at all.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
it kind of doesn't work.
It doesn't work. You're right. When you say a loose prey boy, you're definitely right about that because there's a lot of things that don't fit later in that other trilogy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's addressed with the next movie and how it retrofitted with the present day, but
yeah.
some of it is some of it doesn't quite work.
Yeah. They took creative license, I think, with a lot of this. Yeah, for sure. I mean, talking about her and everything, I'm gonna be honest with you. We've done the other trilogy, kids. It's in the archives, so go give those a listen. I have never been a fan of the makeup job, either on Romaine or on Lawrence. However, do I think she should just have blue skin with the white, the white, I don't know what to call it, that white outfit with the skull? I don't know. That seems kind of hokey. It seems like there should be some kind of middle ground. I've never really been a fan of like the completely naked Mystique in the movies. I don't understand why it's necessary. I don't know. I don't know if the solution is let's put clothes on her, but I also don't know if the solution is not let's put clothes on her. It seems like it seems odd that we're still doing that.
Yeah, I think it worked less in this trilogy
Hmm.
Than it did in the initial trilogy. I think after a while you get used to it.
Yeah,
in-
yeah.
In the Bryan Singer films, but in this movie, it's more jarring because it kind of feels hokey. And I think that's what
Mm.
I immediately looked at in like the flashback scenes with her as a kid. It's just like, oh wait, they're still doing this naked thing, but with a kid. Like
Mm.
it just can't.
And-
And Charles is just talking to her like it's normal.
Right.
It's yeah.
There's a naked girl in my kitchen. It's fine.
Yeah, it's kind of jarring. And I guess you're supposed to get this idea throughout the movie that he kind of has like she kind of has a thing for him,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't see her in that way.
No, not at all. No, he loves her, but it's not what she wants.
Exactly. And it's yeah. There's some very cringe scenes with Mystique, like when Mystique gives everybody their names and it comes off very corny.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's moments like that, and I'm not going to argue that some of the cast, some of these, I'll call them kids for lack of a better word, but they're really not kids. Some of it's a little bit, maybe kind of forced, but at the same time, I guess the thought was we got to fit a lot of new characters into one space in a very short amount of time.
Yeah,
and you've got other heavyweights in this film, which we'll get to shortly. But maybe you're right about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what it felt like by the time we get to the second and third movie. What I didn't like about the original trilogy is how, because Hugh Jackman became the biggest star in the franchise and Wolverine was the most popular character, you had to change things around where every story revolved around him and he was always at the forefront. It feels like this time they did that with Mystique because you've got Jennifer Lawrence in this movie.
Doesn't have quite the same oomph.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I don't want to focus too much time continue to talk about that, but I think that's part of what became a disconnect with Mystique in this trilogy. It's just like it's kind of too much of her, and the way that she was used doesn't quite work.
Well, and plus, not to get wrapped up in it with you, but since we're on it, when you know that the actress herself has looked sideways at it and said things in the press, said things in interviews to lead you to believe she don't want to do this, I'm always thinking it's kind of hard to forget. And look, kids, it's not just because she's a female. There's been plenty of male actors who have said things, looked sideways at comic book roles that they either have or didn't get. I'm like, well, look, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Like, don't take the paycheck or don't do it. If creatively you don't want to do it, move on. You will have other roles and you will continue to be successful. So maybe that's it for some fans, man. They can't forget the stuff that she said through the years about it too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she made a lot of money doing it.
Of course. And I mean, that's not to say that it means everything. But like if creatively she wasn't being challenged and she didn't enjoy the process, I totally understand. It's okay if you go. They will recast you and it won't be out of spite. It'll be because the machine keeps turning.
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's got to keep turning, so it'll be no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
But maybe when she signed on for multiple years, which the MCU, that's what you do now. That's a thing.
Yeah. I think also just like tonally, it's kind of hard to connect with Mystique in the comics and so many other adaptations where she's like cold and calculating.
Mm.
And even in the original trilogy, she doesn't talk that much, but she's just like this cold, uh, like not even like a henchman to Magneto, almost like his second in command.
Mm.
And then she is used here as like this like cheesy teenage character, and it's just like,
Right.
oh, I don't know.
I mean, in the other trilogy, she came off as Magneto's lover. That's how I took it.
Yeah, and yeah, it's bits about bits here that are not very comfortable that they do.
It's interesting. Let me ask you this. We started off talking about McAvoy and Fassbender. Is there enough of the dynamic between Xavier and Magneto in this film? And in other words, should there have been more of that dynamic to maybe shore up the weak spots? What do you think?
I think that there was enough because, like I said, they really do the heavy lifting in this movie.
Sure.
I think that this movie is as enjoyable as it is because of their performances. Some other members of the cast, I think Kevin Bacon,
Fantastic.
is underrated in this movie. I think
Yes.
he's great as the main villain. And he could have just came in and phoned us in, but yeah, he was great.
It was great. And you know what? Like, if he was told to ham it up and he did on purpose, buddy, it sure doesn't feel like it. Like, it just seems like he is diabolical. He's cold blooded. Like, I don't know. To me, he's not over the top at all in this movie, man. Like, he's got a little bit of humor to him, but it's not so much humor that he's funny, right? Because he's still cold. He's still evil. I mean, I thought he was perfect here, man. I thought he really brought something. And I kind of hated that he, I mean, Magneto had to get his revenge. And I completely, and by the way that Sebastian Shaw went out was freaking great, wasn't it?
Terrible. It's just gut wrenching scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, this really feels like Magneto's movie. Because even the way that Sebastian gets his comeuppance, it's gruesome, but
yes,
you're rooting for Magneto by the end of it.
Yes.
It's like, no, this guy deserves this.
Absolutely. Well deserved. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there are other, I'm sure we'll get into the rest of the cast, but there are other members of the cast I thought really shined here.
Yeah. Kids, just so you know, and I'm sure everybody here has either seen the movie already or they're going to, and we just ruined a lot of it for you, so sorry about that. But the movie begins much in the same way as the very first X-Men began, 1944, a young Eric Lesher, which I love this. We've got the flashback of the Nazi concentration camp. For my money, pound for pound, one of the best. I'll do this. Not only one of the best scenes in a comic book film, one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a movie was the opening to the first X-Men. To this day, it makes me tear up because I can't help it. It is awesome. And I love that they played that back, Phil, but this time they went beyond and we met Shaw and he's just watching it unfold. I love how they piece that together. They're setting up his psychology. There's immediate emotional stakes because Eric's, the thirst for revenge happens right there because, Shaw, kills his mother in front of him. Dude, and the way they shot it, of course, they intentionally did not show that massive torture room that was right beside Shaw's desk behind the glass until they did the wide shot of the room. That is bone chilling to see that, man.
Yeah, I thought that scene was great. Being able to come back around and add the stuff with Shaw in the interrogation room with young Eric, and then we find out his mother's fate in that. That was really, really good. The when he loses control in that fit of rage, I think that went on a bit long, where he's like tearing up the lab and all the rest of the stuff. And that was one of those things where I was like, oh, I didn't realize how hokey this looked the first time, and looking at it today, I was like, oh yeah, this didn't age great. But the rest of the scene I really liked.
And it's interesting too that, by the way, kids, if you don't believe we should be going around, squishing Nazis like they're, bugs, then you should watch this movie. It'll remind you of how fun it is to squish Nazis like they're bugs. But I kind of felt like maybe he should have been popped in the head from behind and knocked out. Because why would this kid still keep standing there after all that had happened, knowing that this man just killed his mother? Did that hit you weird?
Yeah. And yeah, he had this whole fit of rage, destroyed the torture room, and
Mhm.
then he just kind of stands there. Yeah, yeah, that was a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I didn't understand that either. What do you think about the juxtaposition of this scene immediately followed by Charles? We talked about Charles and Raven in the kitchen, just to see how these two kids at the same time were experiencing life. What an interesting switch to go from that to this, man.
I think it's important because it sets up the way that Eric looks at the world and the way that Charles looks at the world.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that he could discover his powers in the way that he did, and he's coming from a place of privilege, and he could still look at the world in this bright-eyed way because he hasn't experienced the hardships that Eric has.
Mm.
He doesn't have like immediate ramifications to him discovering his powers that made him that should have made him ashamed of them. But he saw them as a way to freedom.
Mhm. Yeah, that's interesting. That I do like the back and forth because it reminds me of the entire like the dichotomy of Malcolm X and Dr. King, and we talked about this in the first X-Men trilogy that we covered here. They leaned very heavily into that. We can do this peacefully versus by any means necessary. And like you said, man, like they're setting that up from the jump. Um, I was really here for that. And like the early themes here of Charles, like friendship, acceptance, like he's got this, moral compass. And, like you said, in contrast to Eric's revenge driven life, we knew that already. But seeing it play out really does inform who their characters are. What did you think about the placement of the timeline in terms of this thing is happening during the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis? What did you think about all that happening in the background?
I thought it added a lot to the movie. I think having it during this time frame adds to some of the urgency around American politics, and the hysteria going around with like nuclear weapons
Mhm.
and the Cold War scare, and then also juxtaposing that with the idea of mutants being outed at that time in the world, and just
Mm.
how much that would have been scary for a lot of people.
Man, let me tell you, and you and I may never know this because there's probably a lot of stuff the government's still lying about today. But
Yeah.
at least as far as we know, the Cuban Missile Crisis was the closest we ever came because it was Kennedy wasn't going to back down. And to be honest, not to get political, kids, but I don't know that he should have backed down. Like it was, he made the backdoor deal and things happened to bring the heat down and everything ended up being fine. But the Soviet Union was really pushing us at that time. So like that was probably the closest we've ever come. I do like the idea of how all this played out. We got to mention real quick the costuming. They very much look like the uniforms in the books. The muted colors are different. Um, Pretty much a stark contrast to what we've seen in other films. I do like the tone of the movie. I like the way it feels very 1960s. Some of these movies we've watched and reviewed, Phil, it seems very on the nose. I didn't get that here. Did you feel like any of it was forced? Did any of it look hokey to you?
No, I thought it worked with the time period. I liked seeing the initial color scheme and seeing as close as we're going to get to the initial X-Men costumes.
Mhm.
Um, I do wish we got the original five, uh, but
Yeah,
that's me
same.
nitpicking. Uh, but yeah, even the stuff with Magneto and stuff around the Cold War stuff, I thought worked really well. Of course, like the metaphor of the mutants and the nickname children of the atom, and at this time
Love it.
nuclear war was a real thing.
Yeah.
I thought that metaphor worked really well.
And without Shaw flat out saying, this is why we all have these abilities, he flat out kind of said it that way, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of that worked. But yeah, I think just like a lot of the set dressing for this, making it a period film and with X-Men in it, I thought worked really well.
Yeah, I agree. I was here for it. Again, you know, like I said, man, some of the stuff we review, it just feels forced, but I didn't get that at all. Um, Kids, we were talking about the cast and some heavyweights we've got here. Bacon and Shaw is definitely one of those heavyweights. We've got a lot of new faces here that we've never seen in an X-Men film before. Let's talk a little bit about Rose Byrne as Maura McTaggart. I'm kind of indifferent on her. I think she's great,
Mhm.
but it kind of felt as though I needed more. And I don't know what I mean by that, but I just felt like she did such a great job. I kind of felt like I wanted her part to be a little deeper than what it was. What's your thoughts about her?
I think she's a great actress and
Yeah.
other things I've seen her in. I did enjoy her in this movie. But I do agree with you. I think once they started the stuff with her and Charles, um, I would have liked to see more of it. Um, but I did enjoy her in the role. I think she worked as the love interest, and the note that they ended on, I liked it, even though they kind of like immediately undid it in the second movie.
He could have said something. He could have gave the worst pickup line ever. She wouldn't have remembered it. So
Yeah, but yeah, I also love McAvoy is so good in this movie.
he's so good.
For him to go from very good intentioned pacifist and what we know of him, but then also, when you see a young Charles at like these bars and he's like, I he's so like he's so the opposite of what you think he is. He's
Mhm.
just like, yeah, man, evolution's a groovy thing,
Yeah.
and he's like in there like using like his he's in there using his wit and like his knowledge as like a icebreaker, and he's like trying to pick up women, and yeah, I think he's fantastic. So the fact that he is like trying to immediately hit on Myra,
Hmm.
and like he's just yeah, he's fantastic throughout this. But I think he's believable and both sides to himself because
Hmm.
yeah, this is a guy that grew up in wealth. He's gonna go to school and yeah, he's gonna be big man on campus because his parents are rich.
Right.
And so
Right.
yeah, of course he has this like good natured way of seeing the world, and he's very pragmatic and good intentioned, but at the same time he's coming from a place of wealth and privilege.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's great. And who knew that Professor X was a player back in his time?
Yeah, yeah, all of that stuff is it's great. He's
It's
trying
very
to use
different. I
the
liked it.
pickup lines. It's so good.
And dude, like most men were blind, but she's sitting there and she's obviously bothered and he doesn't pick up on it for someone that can read minds. Oh, but you know what? He always promised her he never would. So that's why he didn't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's so used to using his power as a crutch. He's not even trying to like read the room and
Yes.
understand that like he's making her uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah. Read the room. He can read your mind, can't read the room. That's a good quote. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's so used to just being able to use his power that he's like, "Oh, well, I can't do that with you, but I know you're into me." Like, what do you mean?
Right. Of course. Yeah. Uh, Oliver Platt, he didn't have a very big part. Oliver Platt is freaking wonderful in everything he's ever done. He's great in The Bear. Kids, if you've never watched it, go check it out.
Yeah.
We've got a podcast about it, folks. Go check that out too. Dude, I wish he had more to do. They're just calling him the Man in Black with the CIA, but buddy, his send off is pretty spectacular. So it's gruesome as well,
Yeah, the great Oliver Platt, of course, Ready to Rumble fame.
That's right.
Great actor. Yeah, he was good in this movie.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed him. I like when he's a good guy. He's not always a good guy, but I thought he did great here. Again, I didn't want to see him leave that soon. Let's talk about this new team, heroes and villains both, because man, we've got a lot of new people, a lot of new faces in here. As we said, you've got a couple of characters. I don't know if they ever even have any lines. I mean, Angel has a bit to say. This is Zoe Kravitz, of course. We're going to see her later as Catwoman in the DC universe. But as Angel, Salvador, you got Jason Fleming as Azazel, Alex Gonzalez as Riptide. So you've got like the henchmen. Magneto, or the Hellfire Club needs henchmen, right? It's important.
Yeah.
Azazel looks so much cooler than Nightcrawler. I'm sorry. The Bamf thing looks so much cooler. I thought it's a highlight. The hair they had on him looks like plastic hair. I did bump into that. It looks plastic, but I love the character design and I love the teleportation of that guy.
Yeah, I love that they went with the Hellfire Club as the big badge for this movie.
Yeah.
And Sebastian Shaw and all of his henchmen are clean. They have the suits on.
It's very good.
It's so great. Of course, Azazel, Nightcrawler's father, and they immediately are setting up that, hey, Mystique kind of gets around.
That's right.
They set that up right away in this movie, which is also why it's so weird that they go from introducing her as this little girl, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about that choice, creative choice, but it happened. I can't keep lingering on it, I suppose.
You're struggling with that one, I know.
Very much struggling with it. But yeah, I like the Hellfire Club a lot here. I don't think we got nearly enough of Emma Frost. I thought that the casting for Emma Frost was great, but I don't think she was used very well in this movie.
January Jones is Emma Frost. Yeah. Much in the same way as McTaggart. I liked January Jones in this role. And I thought when she had a lot of screen time too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much of me bought it. And I don't know the actress that much, if I'm being real. Maybe she's just awesome. And I don't know. I don't know if the direction was just be coy, I don't know. But part of me was like, I kind of need her to have a little bit more teeth in her role. Yeah. But that's not to say that she didn't do that. It's just maybe how it struck me. I think I kind of wanted her to be a little bit more aggressive than she was. Maybe that wasn't what the goal was for her, though. What'd you think about her, though, overall?
Yeah. Yeah, of course, she fits here with this time period. Of course,
Sure.
January Jones was in Mad Men. And so I thought the casting for a period movie, and you could use Emma Frost in this movie. It was perfect. She looks the part.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she came across as like a fully realized Emma Frost in this movie, though. And there's like, nitpicks for me as somebody that read the comics. Like, you're using her diamond form in this movie, and of course she didn't get the diamond form until way later on. They didn't introduce secondary mutations and stuff till way later on. And then there's the whole thing with them like using the bed frame to choke her, and it's putting enough pressure on her to crack her diamond form. And I was like, that's me putting on my nerd glasses. That shouldn't work. Like, her diamond form should be near indestructible. That shouldn't have worked.
And not for nothing, because now you got me thinking this. Thank you. Where you mentioned a very, very young child naked in the kitchen. Do we have to show a scene of choking a woman in a bedroom? Is that weird too? Like, is that weird? I don't know. Something about that.
Yeah. Some of the stuff with Emma I wasn't the biggest fan of, because Emma should be like this big domineering figure. She should be like 1B in the Hellfire Club to Sebastian Shaw's 1A.
Right.
Which makes me think Nicholas Hoult is in this movie.
Right, yes.
1A. But
very good callback.
But yeah, so I feel like for her role, I would have liked to see her utilized more in this movie. And I just don't think we got enough of her. And I don't think that she felt like a fully realized version of Emma Frost. She's definitely better than the other Emma Frost we got in the X-Men movie, but I just wanted to see more of her because I did think it was good casting.
I did too. Yeah, maybe it just wasn't fully realized. Maybe that's what it was. And maybe it's the way the character was written. I think I needed, for me, I needed her to be a little bit more aggressive than what we got.
Yeah, I did like when she's seducing guys, and then she's just like, of course, I would never let this guy touch me. And so she's like
Right.
sitting there filing her nails, like, ugh.
Yeah.
I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Boink Studios YouTube is the home of Tom Clark's 6M podcast. Tom Clark's main event, Bear Mode, a podcast review of The Bear, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Subscribe to the channel for archives that date back to 2014, with new content being uploaded every week. And check out boinkstudios.com for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Bookmark the site today.
You mentioned Nicholas Hoult. You know, I got thoughts on Kelsey Grammer that we don't have to talk about. I don't much care for stupid opinions he has now, but Nicholas Hoult is great. Just a great Lex Luthor, just wonderful, and he's great in this movie. The only pushback I had, if there was anything at all, was the end when they obviously dubbed in the voice after he went full beast. And I got one look at his face and I'm like, yeah, this doesn't look good. I don't like this. Like, to me, it didn't look good. I don't know. Maybe it's just me talking, but when you could tell the voice isn't coming out of him, that it was recorded later, that hits me weird too. Nothing he did, but I thought he was great in this movie, man.
Yeah. Great actor.
Yeah.
Of course, great in Mad Max, like you said, great in Superman. I've seen him in multiple things at this point. Just a phenomenal actor. And I think he did the best he could with the material here. This is kind of the same thing with Emma Frost thing, where this never really feels like Beast to me. Like there's kind of decisions they make with the character that don't really work. Like he's got a thing for Mystique, and then like he is like ashamed of his mutation, and like he's got to get to this place where he ends up as a blue hairy beast early on, and it doesn't quite feel earned, if that makes sense. It just felt like, well, he's Beast. We got to let you know he's Beast by making him blue.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the comics, it took years before he got to the blue fur.
Right. Yeah.
And so I would have liked it if we got like at least one movie of him just like, having like the barefoot and just like being like human Beast.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. I don't know which Beast I like better. This one, like the hair or the no hair. I'm not sure which one I prefer, honestly.
I mean, most people know him as like Blue Furry Beast because
Sure.
of the 90s cartoon, and like when most people started reading X-Men, he had already mutated into like the blue ape version.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't mind that. It just kind of felt like the way you got there was kind of clumsy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then him getting the formula wrong for, looking normal. Like he's such a brilliant guy, but he got the formula incredibly wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's to my point that I made to the start of this. Like, I think some of the Magneto stuff is so good. Like the Magneto elements of this movie are so good that it makes it worth the price of admission. And I just wish they got some of the other characters nailed down as well.
Yeah. When he tells him, "You never look better, pal. Never look better, buddy." And Beast is like trying to choke him out. He said, "Do not mock me." And he's like, "I wasn't." Like he definitely wasn't trying to mock him, man.
Yeah, all that stuff kind of doesn't land great. I know what they're trying to do, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you know what it might be. The version of the Beast we've seen in the movies has always been an adult and reserved and highly, highly intelligent. And now we're getting a younger version who's kind of really still angry and not accepting who he is. Maybe it's just a weird transition, you think?
Right. And I mean, of course, that's always been a part of his backstory, is that, he made a mistake because he was ashamed of his mutation. But I just think the way we got there in this movie, it could have been done better.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know if it hit me that way when I saw it, but I guess in my mind, I was just thinking, well, like you said, that they got to remind people he's blue and furry, so they're just going to go ahead and do it. Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from.
All of the like kind of love triangle stuff they set up between him and Raven and Magneto, Like Magneto comes in there and he's like, kinky.
Yeah, right?
She's in bed and he's like, no, I want the real Raven.
Yeah.
No, the real Raven.
Yeah.
Perfection.
Yeah. And then she wants something to cover up with when that happens because she's ashamed of how she looks.
Yeah. He gives her that great line, would a tiger cover up his stripes?
That is a great line. I'm sorry. Because it makes sense. That's how he views her. I mean, in that world, if she walked into the room right now, you'd go, oh my God, there's a naked woman in here. But in that world, yeah, but it's not. To them, she's just a mutant. That's how they look at her. You don't really ever get a man looking at her going, hey, like, I don't know. I mean, I get why we do it, but like, I don't know. Because to him, you're just a mutant. Like, why are you even in here? Why are you in here? Without him saying that, that's how it felt. Like, you're wasting my time. Go to bed. Leave me alone. You know?
To bed.
Right? Go to bed, kid. Get out of here. Because doesn't he tell her to leave? He's like, just get out, you know. I don't know. It's wild. Because that, you know, I guess we're supposed to remember there's an age gap here between him and this girl. And I mean, there is, of course. But I don't know. I don't know if there's enough of, hey guys, there's an age gap here. I don't know if we've got
No.
I don't know if that was reinforced enough, if that makes sense. Because like you said, later on, she's hanging out with those kids who I think maybe should be younger than her, but they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, just the tone shifts are kind of strange.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think the stuff with Mystique and Magneto works better, and we do end up understanding why she would go along with him because you could see all along like she likes Xavier. He does not see her in the same way.
Sure.
But Magneto likes her exactly for who she is. He's not asking her to hide who she is. No, I like you for who you are. And she's just like, well, yeah, like Xavier's never going to see me the way that you see me.
Mm-hmm. It just he doesn't feel like Charles feels like more of a player than Magneto does here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It feels like Magneto in his scenes with her is more genuine with her.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And even though it's not Xavier's intent, it kind of feels like he's running game on her.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Let's talk about the other three members of the team here. Caleb Landry Jones as Cassidy or Banshee. Eddie Gathegi, speaking of Superman movie, he's here as Darwin, and Lucas Till as Alex Summers / Havoc. We know that, you know, Alex Summers is actually, his younger brother is Scott, which I always thought was the other way around, but I guess I was wrong. They never mentioned Scott here, but they do in another movie. And I think we eventually see him too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Haven't seen the original trilogy. I haven't seen this trilogy in a while, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, we get Cyclops in the third movie, Apocalypse.
That's right.
That's right. Movie, but.
By the way, these no, we'll get there. It's part 3, dude. They're the curse of the part 3, and we should know. We've done a bunch of them here. Like I said when we opened the show, it's insane. Gathegi right off the bat, too soon, don't you think? Like you had to kill. If you had to kill somebody, it had to be him. Like I don't know, man. I wasn't feeling that death that early on.
That is one of the most hated moments in this movie. Every time people bring up discourse about this movie on social media, they always talk about how they killed Darwin off. You literally killed a character off that can adapt to anything and cannot die. He had plot armor, and you killed this black man with plot armor. It just never go back to it. The way he died was so. Yeah, it was so bad. Like I've never liked that about this movie, and they could have. Yeah, they had so much potential with Darwin, and that's again where you're trying to do this prequel where it's the original X-Men, and you're not going to do the original 5. So you do Scott's brother, which I've always liked Havoc because it's always been something cool about like X Factor and like. Yeah, I've always liked Havoc, but like I don't think he's nearly as interesting as starting this this trilogy with a young Scott. Because you had the chance, because though the trilogy with Hugh Jackman, the thing I've never liked about it is that Scott took a backseat, and we never got to see more of Scott. You could have done a whole trilogy with young Scott and really show people why he's such an interesting character and why he has a unique relationship with Charles Xavier.
Mm.
But you went with Havoc instead, and that's not nearly as interesting. And then you brought in Darwin, who Darwin is at the time a relatively new character. He
Mhm.
was one of the forgotten X-Men that went to try to face Krakoa before they brought in the other X-Men with Wolverine and Storm and the more famous new batch after the original five.
Mm.
But if I remember correctly, that's from that Brubaker comic with the third Summers brother.
I forgot all about the third Summers brother. I almost said Nathan, but that's Cable.
Yeah, Vulcan, that's his name.
Volk, that's it. You're right.
His real name is Gabriel Summers.
There you go.
But yeah, he's on that same team with Vulcan, Darwin, and so again, you're like throwing around like the timing, and this movie also came out at a time. If people have not noticed, into this review, where I was just like, "Why are you changing things?" Like I was that kind of comic fan when it came out. Like, why are you changing it? And I'm not as big of a stickler to those things, but I think with the X-Men franchise, they changed so many things around and they didn't really do it in an interesting way. And it's kind of hard to unsee it.
Right.
And like, I think you could, for a lot of comic adaptations, you can give things a pass when they change things if they do it in an interesting way. And I
Right.
think like, if you're gonna put Havoc here, at least give us something interesting other than, oh, he's got the same powers as another Summers brother that we're gonna see later. And yeah, you don't really ever flesh Havoc out other than that, other than we know whose brother he is.
He's kind of a douche, and he's very one-dimensional.
Yes. And I don't, yeah. I mean, you can make the argument that a lot of appearances early on when we see Havoc in the comics, he's kind of the same way.
Yeah, of course, but that's over multiple years, whereas you're getting one shot in a movie to explain why this kid's so mad.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm saying if you just come in straight forward with Cyclops and Jean and Beast and Iceman, it's a different movie. And then of course Angel. But yeah, and even like Angel, the Angel you use here in Zoe Saldana, sorry, not Zoe Saldana, but Zoe Kravitz.
Mhm.
It just kind of feels like placeholder with like this idea of what the character she's supposed to be referencing that joins X-Men later.
It's an interesting choice to do that. I don't know why you call her Angel. It's like a bee's wings or like a
Butterfly.
hummingbird wings or something. I think that's on her back.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like if you were gonna do like a year one movie, do a year one movie.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep saying it feels like they had like all the ideas in place for Magneto year one movie, but they didn't really think out doing an actual X-Men year one movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's sometimes where this movie suffers. But like I said, the Magneto and Xavier stuff is so good, and it has such a good villain, and I think there's so many other things about this movie that works that it's still entertaining. But I just wish it was a better X-Men movie.
Yeah, I hear you. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you. By the way, we got Daddy Stryker here, William Stryker Sr., Don Creech. I think only direction for this character was, hey, this guy's a big jerk. And
Yes.
He hates mutants. So he did the job well. So I don't know. Like how old is William Stryker supposed or the other Stryker's supposed to be in the other trilogy? Because like I thought he was an older guy, but not here, maybe.
Yeah, and I think part of like why they didn't use the original five and they tried to uh put things in like Stryker and use a younger Stryker is because they were trying to adhere to the fact that this is a prequel and keep the timeline in a place where it would make sense.
Right.
So, you know, you didn't want to de-age the original X-Men that much where by the time we got to the original trilogy, it wouldn't make sense. But that's why I'm just like, instead of just making it a prequel, they should have just done a year one movie.
Sure. That would have made sense. Speaking of Hugh Jackman, we mentioned earlier, one of the best cameos of all time.
Yes.
Because they go in the bar and he's just like, F off. And they both look at each other like, all right. And they just leave him alone. And that comes back. Doesn't that come back in Days of Future Past when he reminds him, you told me to F off when I wanted your help?
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Great cameo. I love that. The montage that they do, and this is great. Great Gnarls Barkley song. I think that's from their second album, Saint Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Love that song. Love that album. The two Gnarls Barkley projects are fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting. But I was here for that. I like that they just got in and got out and got done. And of course, we know he was going to come back eventually. But I was here for that. Some other parts here with kids. We had Glenn Morshower as Colonel Hendry, Matt Craven as CIA Director McCone, Rade Serbezia as the Russian general. If you've seen any movie ever, you know who he is. He's great.
Mhm.
He's always that Russian. He's always that guy. We also had Michael Ironside. If you know 80s movies, you know who Michael Ironside is. Ray Weiss, James Remar, who we just talked about in another 48 hours. He was here. Yeah, so a few little cameos here and there, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, dude, regardless of how the characters were handled, this is a big cast. I mean, juggling all these people in the time frame they had, I'm sure that's never easy. We've talked about it with the Avengers film. We talked about it with Spider-Man 3 recently, that massive cast. Like, this is a big cast, dude. Like that can only complicate things, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's why, we didn't get some of the characters that were here that I would have liked to see more of, like what we were saying with Myra or Emma Frost. I think it was tough to juggle so much screen time.
Yeah, I think that was a problem. I really think that was a problem. And I think they did the best that they could with it, but I think it could have been better. Yeah, but also that goes back to the idea of, how are the characters written? What are their story arcs? Is there enough meat on the bone to actually tell a fitting character story for each person? Maybe yes, maybe no. But again, things get that much tougher when you got to put that many people in the cast and on the screen, often at the same time. Well, like we said before, you've got like these story beats, Eric and Charles' friendship, as time goes on, that you've got the montages, like you said, you can see this team is working together. They're training. They're trying to come back from this horrible thing that happened to them, where they kind of got, well, not kind of, they did get ambushed. You've got the Cold War context, which makes mutants feel like a covert global force, not just comic book fantasy. I really think that worked. Let me ask you this. Was the addition of Cerebro too much? Did that feel forced to you?
It felt a little tacked on, but again, because because we're trying to treat it like a prequel, we've got to get so much in.
Hmm.
And sometimes I don't think that helped this movie. It just felt like they were trying to reference so much, and a lot of stuff didn't get the chance to breathe that it needed to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I could see what they were going for. It's their way of saying, hey, they already had this technology.
Yeah.
So later on, they're going to go build this in a massive form. I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Right, and because it's a prequel, you're trying to reference the first X-Men movie, and of course, like Mystique would know where Cerebro is in a house, and Magneto would know about Cerebro, and he would use it um, in his plan in the third act because he helped him build it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'll call it the danger room, but it's really not. I think Charles just called it the basement or whatever, like a training room. I guess that is what it's supposed to have been, of course. But man, let me ask you this: when it comes to powers, effects, go to visual effects. I thought Havoc's powers looked great.
Mhm.
I love that he shut the door when he came back in. Havoc had almost destroyed the entire room because the guy had that much power. What did you think about the visual effects here that was happening?
Yeah, I think for the most part, the way that the action scenes were handled was good. The way that most of the powers looked great. Like I thought Havoc's power looked great. Of course, they had to make it red to go look. Cyclops' brother,
Right.
uh, because his powers are white in the book, right there.
They are, yeah. It's like the white rings. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we got to make it red because Cyclops. Uh, um, but yeah, I like the way his powers looked. I like the whole disc and putting that on the suit. I think visually that looked good.
Mhm.
Um, I think all of the scenes of Charles mentoring the kids and training them worked really well. Even the stuff with him mentoring Magneto and teaching him that, you're not just a weapon. You're not just like, you know, so much more than that. You're capable of more than just anger.
Mhm.
I thought all of that worked well because we don't get much of that in the original trilogy.
No.
Um, we get a lot of Patrick Stewart looking the part, but we don't see as much of the mentor stuff that we got in this movie.
I do love that. I love that that's here. Let me ask you a question. The way Magneto is portrayed in this film specifically, was he already a lost cause? Was there ever an opportunity for him to go Charles's way? Or was the decision made long before they got on that beach and those ships were firing missiles at them?
Yeah, this very much felt like, in a way, like Star Trek in some ways. Like
Mm,
Magneto is who he is, and for better or worse, the thing that drives him is his pain,
mhm.
and he's
Yes.
never going to get over how much he was affected by the Holocaust, how
Yeah.
much he was affected by his mother's death. Um, I hate to say it this way because, of course, there are people online that always like point to, well, Magneto was right, and like they were making the Magneto was right shirts, and like he's always justified, like, you know, coexistence is a dream, right? Um,
Mm.
but it's so hard to disagree with him watching this movie
It is.
because
Yeah.
after everything he's gone through, and it makes it so hard to be on Charles's side because he's right. He's like, man, you're living in a fantasy.
Mm.
They're never going to truly accept us, ever. And you're supposed to be on Xavier's side. Xavier is right.
Mm. Yes.
Um, but just like Magneto's journey and everything, it's just like, no. It's just like when you really see, and it's hard, especially in the world we're living in today, when you see just
Mm.
how terrible people can be and how bigoted people can be. And I think deep down in his mind, he knows that the world is never going to change that much, and so he's never going to change. I mean, we've seen him be an X-Men in the books. We've seen him have a change of heart. We've seen him come around, but it's hard to get over that much trauma that he experienced at such a very young age.
Yeah, and watching it with 2026 eyes was much different than watching it in 2011 with those eyes
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, especially when he's in there with Shaw and he
Yes.
puts on the helmet for the first time and he shuts Charles up out and he's like, "No, no, don't do this." And it's just like, "Nah, he killed my mother. I can't let him get away with that. I don't care if you think we can coexist. I don't all of that stuff sounds great. I love you like a brother. I appreciate your friendship, but he got to go."
Yeah, he's got to get. Yeah, look, in that moment, yeah, I'm killing him. I'm sorry. I know kids. It's just a show. Everybody, calm down. I have no violent intentions. But yeah, if it's me, I'm doing the same thing, man. How can you not?
Well, and I think the big part of it is, again, it's just so hard to side with Xavier because it's like you don't get it. Everything you're saying sounds good. It is the right thing. We should give them grace. We should be the bigger men. We are superiors to them, so we should act accordingly.
Mhm.
But you didn't go through everything I did.
Right.
I didn't have what you had. I didn't have a great childhood. I didn't have a home. I didn't have everything you had. Um, no, I cannot unsee how cruel the world can be.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, because that's important. I mean, Xavier preaches coexistence, like you said, and Eric leans into revenge and power. And
Yeah.
it's two different things. And you know what's great is at any given time, either guy can be right or he can be wrong.
Yes.
You
And
know,
yeah, for the most part, Magneto comes across very much justified throughout this movie.
throughout this movie for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Too much? Is it too much?
No, because I think that's important. That because Magneto is such a compelling villain because his cause feels just.
Hmm.
His means of going about it are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But his motivations and his cause have always felt just, and that's the thing that make him such an interesting character, and his dynamic with Xavier so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. I mean, I just it's so funny because all we heard about, I mean, not just in the first trilogy, but in the books as well. But I think it became more of a pronounced thing in the trilogy because people like to have a way to compare, and I guess that makes sense because I said earlier it's Malcolm X and Dr. King. We were told that, and we got glimpses of it, but this is where we really see like there's a better way. No, there's not. You haven't lived the life I've lived. You don't know how hard I've had it. Like,
Yeah,
there's not a better way. This is the only way. We are the next evolution.
yeah,
Oof.
yeah. Yeah, very chilling stuff when he finally puts on a helmet and shuts
Yeah.
Charles out, and then he comes out floating, and he's got Shaw's body, and he throws it out there, and he's just like, brothers.
Yes.
Bro, it's so good. It's just like it's man, Fassbender is so good in the role as well. Just like his delivery of the lines, and it's just like, wake up, Charles. Like this is not gonna end the way you think it is.
Fellow mutants. He's talking all comic booky when he gets out there. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because and I mean, I love the idea that in trying to help Eric and trying to untap his potential, he's teaching him like, yo, you can be so much more than a weapon. You're so much more than revenge. And he
Mhm.
did learn that lesson. He's
Mhm.
like, yeah, I can be more than that. I can lead us into the future. You think you're the leader we need, but I am.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, Xavier created a monster in this guy and trying to help him and raise him up alongside him. Um, as trying to make him an equal to him, he's just like, yeah, I am an equal to you. And that's why they should listen to me, not you.
Yeah, I can see that. Let me ask you this. Did they rush the paralysis at the end of this movie? Was that rushed? Could that have been saved for part 2? Or do you think it's the timing was right?
I think it was a bit rushed. I think the way it was done was good. So I just
Mhm.
Magneto is just like the bullets are ricocheting. He's deflecting them off with ease, and he's just like, oh man, somebody got hit behind me. Charles, what happened? You all right, baby?
Oh, that's good. Was it too much when he looked at her and he said, "You did this," and he goes, "No, you did it." Was that too harsh on Magneto?
No, because he had lost control. And
Hmm.
I think in that moment he is very much saying like, I'm doing all of this for us.
Right, yeah.
And Xavier's making a point of, you're saying that, but a lot of us are going to get killed. And you don't
Mm.
see that. You're putting us literally in the front of a gun because you just don't see, like, when you wage war with the humans, they're going to fight back, and you're giving them the cause they need to create weapons or to wage war against us.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get in front of this and save lives. You're dooming us. You don't even see that.
Right, exactly, yeah. I mean, what I love about the story, if nothing else, it feels like there's real stakes here, especially, and I think it's one of the best scenes in the movie. I referenced it earlier when they're all standing on that beach and here come the missiles. That is a powerful scene, man. Of yeah, it doesn't matter who we save or what we do. They're gonna try. And he's like, "See, I told you." I'm like, "Yep, Magneto's right. Right now, today in this movie, he's absolutely right." You know?
Yeah, he just single-handedly stops all the missiles by himself.
Jeez.
And if you're a mutant on that island, again, it's hard to not agree with him. But then also seeing like, hey, wait a minute. Not only is this guy right, he's powerful and he can lead us. We don't have to be afraid if this guy is our leader. We don't have to be afraid of the humans. We're better than them.
Right. I do like the scene at the end where he's got the helmet has been tricked out and it's got the comics accurate horns on the front and he's got the colors and he's got the suit. I thought that was pretty cool. Maybe forced, but I guess they're trying to get to the dance. They're trying to get you there.
Yeah.
And Charles in the wheelchair with the X on the wheels. Was all that just too on the nose for you?
A little bit. The only part that I was kind of like, okay, when the other Hellfire members that went with him peeked through the door at the same time. That was a bit cheesy.
Yeah.
But man, talk about, as much as we talked about how good Magneto is and how good Fassbender is, the score for him, like that sinister music that comes up every time he's like seeking revenge or he does something. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, right. I enjoyed that as well. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
The first time we see him and they have like the kind of like that like the simpler version of it and has like the electric guitar and he's like sitting there like moving the quarter through his fingers.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So cool. But again, like this movie really feels like Magneto's movie. This feels like a Magneto origin movie.
Yeah. Henry Jackman was the composer for this film. And let's see, in terms of film work, he did Monsters vs. Aliens. He did Kick-Ass, which it makes sense because Vaughn directed Kick-Ass.
Yes.
He's got a lot of other things on here. X-Men First Class, of course. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which is a fun flick, dude. That's a fun flick. Yeah, he's got a lot of other stuff in here. Yeah, no, I agree with you. The score is really good here. Did you miss the original X-Men theme at all? Did you feel like it should have been slid in here somewhere?
No, I think it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, I think where this movie stumbles is attempting to be a prequel instead of just being a standalone movie.
Just to be a good movie. Forget about all that, you know.
Yeah, I think trying to fit in the confines of the timeline and trying to, reference a lot of things and make sure you know that this is set up for the trilogy we know. Like even when Charles is laying on the beach and the camera is panning away when he's like, I can't feel my legs.
Yeah.
I can't feel my legs. It was just a little too much.
A little too much. This is an off-the-wall question, but it's kind of in the same vein. Do you feel like J.J. Abrams' first Star Trek movie did a better job of being a prequel because it's still connected, but it wasn't as strict as this movie maybe?
Yes, I think it makes a point of being its own thing. And I think I would have preferred something like that here.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I enjoyed that movie quite a bit. As that trilogy went on, it got a little tough, but
yeah, I think the first two in particular are good. I think Beyond is good. Is Beyond the one with the Beastie Boys sabotage in it?
I think so. With that flashback?
Yeah.
Was it a flashback and they did it later on, I think, as well?
Yeah. Yeah, they used sabotage later when they're doing like the dog fight.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm always here for the Beastie Boys, so yeah. That bit's fine with me. Magneto is compelling. I think we agree on that. Xavier he's charming, but he's principled at the same time. The team dynamics between all these guys feel natural. To me, it doesn't feel forced. The moments that do feel forced, like you said, is when they're trying to maybe fit it to the confines of the timeline, like you said. But I think Shaw is a highlight of this. It's not maybe. It's the first time we've ever seen Magneto bested by anybody. Like, dude, Shaw could have flat out killed him, and he didn't. But I'm thinking, yeah, you probably should have killed him because, that came back to haunt you. But Shaw, in his arrogance, even told him at the end, Doesn't have to be this way. You can be with us. Imagine being with me instead of against me. Even he was convinced he was doing the right thing. And
Yeah.
it's such a weird little dichotomy they have between the two of them versus Magneto and Xavier.
Yes. But yeah, that Shaw's death is handled so well. Just the
Yeah.
execution is just so good. The fact that um Charles is thinking the whole time, we're in this together. We got to stop Shaw. And so
Yeah.
he was like, just get the helmet off his head and I can help you. And so when he gets the helmet off and he stops him, thanks for the assist, Charles. I'll take this now. Wait, what are you doing? "Oh, I got it from here. Don't worry about it."
Right, right.
Very good stuff. And as the music starts to come up as he's doing it, it's just like, yeah. A lot of kind of similar vibes to the Star Wars prequel trilogy as well, in the
Mhm.
way that uh, the dynamic between Charles and Xavier is played out, where it's just like, we already know as an audience, you can't trust this guy.
Mhm.
Like, there's no reaching him. Like, eventually, his pain and anguish is going to get the best of him,
Yeah.
and it when we get it, it's so satisfying. Um, and as much as we're sitting here saying like it's hard to disagree with Magneto, I do think McAvoy is very good in this movie. I think in mentoring the other X-Men and like all of the stuff he says throughout this movie, he is right. But the problem is, um, when you do the right thing, and we both know this as adults,
Mhm.
uh, a lot of times when people do the right thing or they're well intentioned, those people do not have a happy ending. And so
Mm.
for him continuing throughout this movie of saying the right thing and saying like we gotta be bigger than them. We gotta attempt to save the people that hate us, which is a huge theme in X-Men.
Mhm.
Um, and he meets his fate by the end of this movie and end up getting paralyzed because he's on the right side of history. Um, That's perfect. It should be that way. As much as I feel like it was a bit rushed to get him in a wheelchair, I do think that's the right note to end on,
Mm.
with this being treated as really an origin film where really Magneto comes out of the other end of this feeling like, well, he got his he got comeuppance on the guy that killed his mother. He's won.
Mhm.
He's got new followers. Um, he comes out of this movie really feeling like at the end, like I got one up on you guys.
Yeah.
Um, and Xavier ends this movie worse off. His
He
childhood
does.
friend left him. He's in a wheelchair. He's paralyzed. Yeah, he's losing by the end of this movie. But I think it should be that way because again, you're not always going to get a reward for doing what's right.
Mhm.
It should be that way. Sometimes you do what's right. You're not going to get that pat on the back you deserve. You're not going to get the validation you deserve. But that's not why you do what's right. Because a lot of times doing what's right is not going to feel good.
Mm.
And yes, it did feel good to get revenge on Sebastian Shaw, but that does not mean it was right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's interesting how that's played out here. I mean, to your point about this feeling like a Magneto movie, it was supposed to be a Magneto movie. The original treatment, the original script, that's what that was supposed to be.
Yeah,
That
you could
Magneto
tell.
is, oh yeah, he's trapped in the concentration camp, and then when the Allies come in to liberate the camp, you know, it's led by Xavier. Now, the issue I have with that is there'd be too much of an age gap. I kind of
Mhm.
feel like Charles shouldn't be older than him. Like they should be around the same age. But the story was that they were going to become friends. It was going to show them through the years. Their disagreements would begin happening. But the studio wanted this to become an early X-Men film. I guess to some degree, I understand that. But I think you could have accomplished that in the last half hour of this movie, where you're showing Charles maybe putting together the school for the first time. And, that didn't have to be rushed. It could have just ended that way. And then we come back with a part two where they're both fully realized characters by that point.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing that's kind of the other thing that kind of is funny with Charles and on the island, and the whole time he's trying to plead with uh Eric uh that he can't do this. Yeah, if you're another one of those mutants on island, and this guy just saved our life. They were gonna bomb us. They were good. The missiles were coming
Right.
down. He stopped the missiles. You the entire time, you were ineffective. What were you gonna do? Keep saying we can talk our way out of this? No, we would have died if it wasn't for him.
Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe Magneto was right after all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. By the end of the movie, the lines are blurred enough where it makes you question everything. But yeah, Xavier, of course, is on the right side of history. At the start of a trilogy, I do think it ended in the right way for him to
Mm.
rebuild everything and for his dream to become more realized by the time the end of it.
Mm.
Maybe could have made that more clear and concise, but it's a problem for another day.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not to keep circling back to uncomfortable moments, but the kid that played the young Mystique, they had a slip-on bodysuit for her and facial appliances, which only took about an hour and a half. So she was not, even though she looks it, she actually
Yeah.
had a suit on. But to listen to your point, it's really hard to tell in that
Mhm.
moment that that's what she was wearing. It does kind of look away, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trivia about this movie, kids. If you never dove in, and sometimes we get into trivia here and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get really into talking about the plot and the story and the characters, which is what we've done here today. But there's a lot of stuff out there. So it's absolutely worth your time. Go to IMDb and look this stuff up. It's fun to read. A lot of stuff from the actors over the years about this. I mean, again, yes, this movie has its issues, as we've said here today. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was, to me, it's a good popcorn movie. And I thought it was really fun to watch. And I got to be honest with you, I'm ready to do part two. And looking back through the archives, we have not done Days of Future Past, which is, I have no idea how that happened. But yeah, I'm anxious to tackle the rest of this trilogy, man, to see what, to kind of refresh my memory and dive back into it. But what did you listen overall? You think the bones are here? The cast is, maybe there's a few weak spots here and there, but overall the cast is really good. Like you said,
Yes.
the two male leads do the most of the heavy lifting. It works conceptually, right? This movie does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came away really enjoying this movie the first time I saw it, and I
Mhm.
still enjoy it when I rewatch it. It has its flaws. I wish that it felt more like an X-Men movie. That's most of my issue with it. But I think uh, if you just come away from this with like the Magneto stuff and the bits that we get with the Hellfire Club, um, this version of Professor Xavier, yeah, there's a lot of potential coming out of this movie, and I came away after it not just enjoying it, but looking at it like, okay, these are the leads we got. If you're going to build a new trilogy, like I'm excited to see what they can do next with these actors.
Yeah. Well, look, let me throw it back to you because I don't think either one of us know how they're going to handle this. That trailer really looks like to me it's the end.
Yes.
Um, it looks like they're going to give, and look, if you're going to kill off major characters, give them a glorious death. Have them go out on their shield. Have them go out in a blaze of glory. It looks like they're being attacked. It looks like Cyclops is cutting loose. It looks like the end. And I don't want that to be the end. But if you're going out on your feet and you're fighting, that's a great way for a hero to go out. But, Magneto and Professor Xavier are really old men by this time that the movie comes out in December. I mean, do you think that McAvoy and Fassbender are the next option? Do you think they'll even care? I mean, well, a lot of things have to happen in order for that to become a reality.
There's so much nostalgia around the original trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like even by the second movie in this trilogy, they just couldn't help themselves to go straight back to nostalgia. Uh, and so I don't think we'll get the younger versions.
Mm.
I would like to see them, but I mean, it's Patrick Stewart, man.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, you don't get a more perfectly cast Xavier. They're going to use this guy as many times as they can until they completely recast the role, I would assume.
You're not wrong, but I mean, I think we all know Jackman's eventually,
Of
um,
course.
right, going to hang it up. And look, we get a 25-year-old actor to replace him. Nothing wrong with that. The guy's a good actor. He's ripped. He's in shape. He has the commitment to the character that Jackman's had. Not saying he'll be better, he'll be different, but and you know what? If they decide to go with X-23 instead for a few movies, and that's who we got, that'd be fine too, until they circled back.
Yeah.
You know, there's ways around it, but like, look, Phil, I'm not saying it would be impossible to tell an X-Men story in the MCU without Charles and without Eric, but it might be really tough. So you might their hand might be forced to
Yeah.
recast to some degree. I don't know, man.
I think they're gonna recast everything. I think that Doomsday is probably the swan song for the Fox universe in the way that Wolverine and Deadpool kind of initially was.
Mhm.
But I agree with you. I think they're gonna kill off that universe. But I think in the process, we probably are gonna get the Cyclops that we wanted. If this
Mm.
trailer is anything to judge by, and we're probably gonna get more from that trilogy's X-Men before they completely recast. Because if I'm Marvel, I think you should do an X-Men film and do the original five, do something very similar to what you did with Fantastic Four, where it's not necessarily an origin movie, but just set up the premise. Like, even if you wanted to set up the premise of the original five on Krakoa, and that's how we get Storm and like recruiting in everybody to come and save them. That would even be a good idea for a movie.
Ooh, I might be here for that. Well, kids, the good news is there's a big future. Marvel's got some deep pockets. The powers that be want to keep making content. As comic book fans, we should all be happy about that. Or if you don't like it, you don't got to watch. Just stick to your books. You'll be fine. But for a lot of the rest of us, we can't wait to see what happens. So, Phil, before we take this home, let's get your last word on X-Men First Class.
Not a perfect movie, but I think there's a lot to like about this movie. As kind of a reset slash peak prequel, you can immediately see the potential for a fresh start for the X-Men at this time. And boy, I wish they had done more before they jumped straight back into nostalgia. But man, this was such a great start for this franchise.
Great start. I cannot agree with you more. I think it's fantastic. I mean, again, there's some holes here and there, kids, but for the fact that, look, not for nothing. We didn't mention Singer too much on this show here today, and there's a good reason for that. Everybody knows what it is. But, buddy, they had a tall task ahead of them, Phil, and that was to revisit, with the exception of part 3, a successful couple of movies and, characters that became sort of instant classics. Jackman, first and foremost, and Halle Berry and Marsden, of course. But, like, they had a tall task to sort of redo and to start over. I mean, I think with what they did, I think it's a valiant first movie for sure.
Yeah. I think, the timeline is very important. I think people also have to remember what this movie set out to be, and then just how much things changed when Marvel Studios found success, and, how much money studios immediately saw was in crossovers. And so the second movie became a different movie because, we can get like this big monster ensemble cast and bring all of these characters back together, and that's going to at least stave off for the time being eventually having to sell off the rights, and we can continue to make X-Men movies profitable.
Right, yeah. Yeah, because when this movie came out, it was 3 years since the first Iron Man.
Yeah.
And Avengers was Avengers 2011 or 2010? I don't think it was that soon because they did Iron Man and the first Cap, I think. No, because they got Iron Man, Cap, and Thor before the first Avengers film.
Yeah, the first Avengers movie was 2012.
Yeah, so it's a year after this. That sounds right.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, once you get the success of Avengers and Marvel Studios comes out the gates, makes $1 billion film.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got an ensemble over here. We can do that.
Right. Yeah, of course. Well, kids, there you have it. There's First Class. Stay tuned. We're going to cover the next film. Should be the next episode, so keep your eyes open for that. Remember to give us a follow on the YouTube, Boink Studios on YouTube. And of course, follow us wherever you get your podcasts for the 6M podcast. We got a bunch more shows on the YouTube. Everything's free of charge. Nothing's behind a paywall. So please go check those out. We've got a podcast 5 days a week now. So everybody go subscribe, like, and follow and all that good stuff. And be sure to check out Phil on Grapsity. He and Reg are killing it over there. So please go subscribe to that channel and follow them for great pro wrestling content. And kids, we'll be back next week with another brand new episode of the 6M podcast. But until then, that is X-Men First Class. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.